12 Years a Slave is an American drama film released in 2003 based on the memoir 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup, a free African American man who was kidnapped in 1841 and liberated in 1853. The film grossed $187.7 million against a budget of $17 million. Directed by Steve McQueen and written by John Ridley, the film stars Chiwetel Ejiofor, Michael Fassbender, Benedict Cumberbatch, Paul Dano, and Sarah Paulson, and has a runtime of 134 minutes. The story begins with Solomon Northup, born a free man in New York in 1808. His father was originally a slave for the Northup family from Rhode Island, but was freed after their move to New York. Solomon married Anne Hampton, with whom he had 3 children, and gained renown as a skilled violinist. In 1841, 2 men named Brown and Hamilton offered Solomon a generous wage to join a traveling musical show and journey with them to Washington County. Once he accepted, the men drugged him and sold him to a slave trader named Birch. Solomon was transported on a ship to New Orleans with other people who had been forcibly captured. The slave trader gave Solomon the name Platt and claimed he was an escaped slave from Georgia before selling him to a plantation owner named William Ford. Due to rising tensions between Solomon and another worker, Ford sold him to another slave owner, Edwin Epps. Despite Solomon's continuous efforts to inform others that he was a free man, no one believed him. At Epps' plantation, Solomon met Patsy, who was favored by Epps but suffered continuous abuse and rape. When a cottonworm infestation ruined Epps' crops, he leased out his slaves to a nearby plantation owned by Judge Turner. Turner favored Solomon and allowed him to play violin at a neighbor's wedding anniversary, letting him keep the earnings. Solomon then attempted to bribe a white worker named Armsby to send a letter to his friends in New York. Although Armsby took the money, he betrayed Solomon and reported him to Epps. Solomon managed to convince Epps that Armsby was lying and escaped punishment. Solomon later worked on a gazebo with a Canadian laborer named Samuel Bass, who openly opposed slavery and earned Epps' hostility for his views. Solomon confided his story to Bass, who agreed to send a letter to Solomon's friends despite the risk to his own life. One day, the sheriff summoned Solomon, accompanied by a man named Parker from New York who recognized Solomon. After verifying Solomon's identity, Parker, a store owner who knew Solomon, arrived to free him. The two embraced and left the plantation, despite Epps' furious protests. After 12 years of slavery, Solomon regained his freedom and returned to his family, leaving behind other slaves, including Patsy. He was greeted by his wife, son, daughter, son-in-law, and grandson, who was named Solomon Northup in his honor. The film concludes by detailing Solomon's unsuccessful lawsuits against Brown, Hamilton, and Birch, his publication of 12 Years a Slave in 1853, his contributions to the abolitionist cause, and the mystery surrounding his death and burial.